Welcome back everyone to Austria, welcome back to Formula 1. Goodness me, is it good to be back, and today we finally saw our first competitive session of 2020 qualifying for the Austrian Grand Prix. As always, we'll be running down every single driver, talking about their session, talking about the different teams, and there's plenty of stories to get through today, that is for sure. A few drivers a bit rusty, certainly some teams we need to have a discussion about. So if you are new around here, feel free to subscribe to keep up to date with all of your Formula 1 2020 news reviews, all that good stuff. Subscribe button is down below. Spoiler warning, as always, but we'll move on to your result. And we're not surprised it was a Mercedes pole position, but Valtteri Bottas, a 102.9 fastest ever lap here in Austria. Hamilton though, just 100th behind, so close between the Mercedes pair. Bottas at the end of Q3 bringing back a bit of his rally skills late on in the day, and that caused a few issues for a couple of other drivers further down the top 10, but so close it was between the pair of them in a class of their own. Behind them, Max Verstappen, best of the rest technically, which is kind of strange to say, did the best job he could do, but that field behind the two Mercedes, so close, brilliant to see. And actually, with tomorrow out the way, I think that midfield fight throughout the season is going to be incredible. Sharing the second row of the grid and behind Max Verstappen, Lando Norris. What an incredible lap from the British driver. Cannot wait to discuss his session a little bit more in detail later on, but absolutely smashed it today. What a way to start the season, not only for Lando, but for McLaren, their best result in qualifying for years. Alex Albon in behind them, starting 5th, isn't too bad, and Sergio Perez for Racing Point. Their target before the day was to qualify inside the top 6, and that's exactly what they did, but they'll probably think there was a little bit more room on the table to potentially go up a few more positions. Charles Leclerc, P7, the lead Ferrari. Ferrari fans, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section down below today. What a difficult session it was. We're going to have to talk about those in detail today. There's going to be a lot of headaches at Ferrari today and a hell of a lot of work to do back at Maranello. Behind Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, 4 places behind his teammate. He'll probably not be too happy with that, but it's not bad to start the season down in P8. 9th place, Lance Stroll, and rounding out the top 10, Daniel Ricciardo, who got caught out by that late yellow flag caused by Bottas in Q3. Outside the top 10 and with tyre choice for tomorrow's race, Sebastian Vettel, P11. That statistic from Sky Sports, first time ever when driving for Ferrari. Sebastian Vettel not making it through to Q3 on pace alone. That's a statistic. And if that is truly the case, I think that really highlights the issues Ferrari are having this year. Next to him, starting outside that top 10, the 2 AlphaTauri cars, Pierre Gasly just beating out teammate Danny Kvyat. Behind both AlphaTauri cars is Esteban Ocon. Finally, he must be so happy that we're back racing. Probably the happiest man in the world that Formula 1 has returned. Romain Grosjean just about sneaking through into Q2, but it was so close, not only with his teammate just 100th away, but then only 3,000th behind him, George Russell. What a stonking lap from George Russell. What an incredible session from him. Just missing out on Q2, but the pace today, very special, and I'm sure at Williams, a lot of smiles going around the garage tonight. Giovinazzi out-qualifying Kimi Raikkonen and sharing the back row with Kimi, debutant and rookie Nicholas Latifi. Your grid for tomorrow's race looks a little bit like this. Bottas and Hamilton, a Mercedes lockout on the front row. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris in close behind. And of course, last year Norris took the fight to Hamilton and the 2 Mercedes in those opening laps, and will be looking to do the same tomorrow. Alex Albon comes in the lead car on that 3rd row next to Sergio Perez. Row number 4, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Stroll and Ricciardo rounding out the top 10. Vettel is in close company with the 2 AlphaTauri cars. Esteban Ocon kind of on the back of that midfield group. It's an all-Haas party and affair down on row 8. George Russell leads row 9 in front of the 2 Alfa Romeos, and Nicholas Latifi will start at the back of the grid. Right, now we've got the times and the formal bit out of the way. For loyal subscribers and long-term subscribers, you will know that usually when we have this bit of discussion afterwards, I pick and choose how I do the discussion. Sometimes we do it by team, sometimes we do it by session, sometimes start at the top. But today, I want to start at the bottom and work our way forward. Nicholas Latifi, about half a second away from George Russell, and considering he had a bit of an off-track excursion and into the barrier this morning in practice, causing the first red flag of the season, not too bad, because that would have knocked his confidence. Starting at the back row of the grid, we expected. Starting last, again, he'll probably be a little bit disappointed about it. But realistically, that's a solid job. That's what the team would have wanted him to do to get through this first weekend without too many issues. And even that red flag incident wasn't a horrific incident, just got caught out a little bit on throttle out of turn 1. And to share the back row of the grid with Kimi Räikkönen on debut, it's a nice little, I suppose, trinket for Nicholas to have this weekend. And of course, in the race, we want to get a little bit closer to the 2 Alfa Romeo cars and at least be close to the pace of his teammate George Russell. The 2 Alphas, wow. I didn't expect this kind of pace, actually. I thought they would be quite comfortably in that midfield fight, but no. They came here this weekend with no upgrades. Practice was a little bit hit or miss, but I still thought they would have some kind of pace in qualifying, but they were so close to being out-qualified by both Williams cars. And yes, the pace between pretty much all of the teams except Mercedes today was incredible. And I cannot wait to watch this season. This is going to be one of the closest grids we have had for years. And I do think we could see a couple of midfield podiums on more than one occasion this year, which is fantastic. However, it looks like there is that back group. Giovinazzi, I just want to say, all he really needs to do this year is just consistently be in front of Kimi, and he started the season off doing that. Proves that the pace and, I suppose, the confidence and ability he was able to learn last year seems to be carrying over to this season. So for him, that's pretty much the maximum he could have done. But likewise with Williams and Alfa Romeo, it also appears that the other team in that back group is Haas. Yes, both cars are technically at the front of that backpack, with Russell just behind both of them, but Magnussen and Grosjean only just beat George Russell, a couple of tenths between Grosjean and Russell, a thousandth between Magnussen and Russell, and that will be a little bit alarming for them, considering the troubles Williams have had over the last couple of years. But I do want to mention, I mean, I'll skip over Grosjean getting through to Q2, because you all know I'm happy about that, you all know, but George Russell, I'm kind of disappointed that he didn't quite slip through, but you could see his lap was pretty much perfect from the onboard. Took the maximum out of that car. And considering this is the first weekend that he's had to drive that car, and considering comparative to Grosjean and Magnussen, the vast experience they've got to George Russell, I think George is going to be through to Q2 several times this year. I really do. Perhaps even next weekend. Looks so good. And just for the Williams team, the awful couple of years they've had, what a boost this is going to be. Our virtual Grand Prix champion George Russell taking that experience to the track today, and what a session he had. He's not my driver of the day, but he was so close. Really looking forward to seeing what he can do tomorrow. And that's kind of the backpack. And I would say everyone in front of that, except the 2 Mercedes and maybe Max Verstappen, are in that midfield fight, which is brilliant. At the back of that midfield, Esteban Ocon. I said it a little bit earlier on. All he really needs to do this weekend is return to F1 and have a clean weekend. Get used to the car again. Get up to speed. Yes, he's quite a few positions behind his teammate, but it is Daniel Ricciardo, who has already been with the team for a year. And Esteban wasn't... Again, I'll keep saying this today because the times and the gaps between everyone were so small, but Esteban has had no issues so far this weekend in terms of his own driving ability. Wasn't able to do any qualifying runs this morning. Had to miss that at the end of the session because the car had an issue with the rear, so that didn't help proceedings. And again, he'll be more interested in just keeping things cool and calm today, and tomorrow, of course, is when the points are collected, and we'll hope with that tyre advantage and a bit of a pace advantage, I would say, over the AlphaTauris. I think he could be one to watch in the race tomorrow. The AlphaTauris, of course, rebranded for this year, so if you've been away over the winter, Toro Rosso and now AlphaTauri, a quiet day, but 12th and 13th isn't really too bad. From a Gasly point of view, this is kind of brilliant, being on that fresh compound tyre behind Sebastian Vettel, but also in front of his teammate, which is, again, a little bit like I said with George Russell and Giovinazzi. It's exactly what they need to be doing. Kvyat, not too far away from his teammate, and we'll go into tomorrow like Ocon and Gasly, hoping that with that tyre advantage, that could really help. And for Sebastian Vettel just in front, that could be the only positive coming out of today, that he will get that tyre choice. Ferrari, I didn't believe it coming out of winter testing that they'd be this far behind. I thought last year they were competitive, and yes, they dropped off at the end of the year, but it wasn't that bad. They were still in those top 3 teams. I'd say they're 5th fastest now. I really would, and that's a huge shock to the system. They have got a lot of work to do, and they have got not a lot of time. There's only 8 races confirmed this year, and technically we could just go to those 8 races, and with upgrades not coming till Hungary, that's round 3. That's already 50 points potentially. You could be away from Mercedes. I think already they're not in the running for the title, which is, you'd say, ridiculous after just one session of qualifying, but it really was that bad today. And tomorrow, Seb, who's realistically this year not got a lot to lose, he's going to be hungry for some points you'd expect, but I just think everyone at Ferrari is just gobsmacked and cannot wait for Hungary. Leclerc, we might as well mention him now, only in 7th. I mean, realistically tomorrow, you'd like to say his thought process will be to move forward during the Grand Prix, but are Ferrari quicker than McLaren? Are they quicker than Racing Point? I'm really not too sure. And with both Racing Point and McLaren having both their drivers through to Q3, there's a bit more of a strategy involved there and at play. So tomorrow, I think Ferrari will score points, but it's going to be a really hard battle. And I think this is easily the worst Ferrari car we've seen, maybe since 2009. 2016 wasn't great, but at least they were scoring podiums. This car doesn't even look close to podiums, and I didn't think I'd be saying that after the first qualifying session of the year. Daniel Ricciardo, caught out by the rally driver Valtteri Bottas at the end of the session, was gutted to not get in a flying lap, but I don't think 10th is that bad. I think a lot of people weren't quite sure where to place Renault coming into this session, and I think 10th is okay. Ricciardo's a driver that certainly can get the best out of that car tomorrow. Yes, he'll be disappointed that he's got Vettel, his teammate, and the 2 Alphas behind on fresh tyres, but Ricciardo's no slouch. He will do a great job, and behind Stroll, he will probably think he can get that position, but on the topic of Stroll, finally through to Q3, he's the master of Monza, but struggles to do good qualifying anywhere else, and Austria has been a circuit he's struggled at in the past, and I don't think I've ever watched Stroll as much as I did today, just hoping he could finally get over those issues from last year, and that's exactly what they did, and hats off to the team for taking the Haas route. Haas usually, or when they used to get through to Q3 on a regular basis, used to send out their drivers before the melee at the end of the session. So they'd send them out with 2 or 3 minutes to go to do their laps on open track and clear track. And I always found it a bit annoying because obviously tyre temps are a little bit cooler because the track's a little bit cooler and there's not 8 other cars bombing it around the circuit. But ultimately it does mean you've got a clean track. And in the case of Stroll, he did miss out on that Bottas rally driving moment and is only 2 tenths away from his teammate, which when you compare that to last year is a mighty improvement. Carlos Sainz, P8, heading into today. If you'd have said, Carlos, you're starting 8th, I think the Chile Master would have been quite happy with that. Looking at it now, saying that, Carlos, you're 4 places behind your teammate, and also you've got Vettel behind, maybe he would have wanted a little bit more, but I think that's okay, and is one that I think will look to go forward tomorrow, a little bit like Ricciardo. Leclerc we've mentioned, and Ferrari fans, I mean, I'll leave that there for you guys. Sergio Perez, P6, that was the target for today. Again, a little bit like Sainz, knowing what we know now that Ferrari are so far off the pace, maybe they would have wanted a little bit more. But alongside Albon, the exact same lap as Albon actually, Sergio Perez was able to do. Not bad at all, but Albon just setting it a little bit earlier on. And Alex, disappointed he was with 5th, but I think that's a good job. Average of 3/10 of Max Verstappen last year, 3/10 off today. And with Bottas' excursion, Alex wasn't able to put in a lap at the end. So I think that's fine. And again, points are tomorrow, so he'll do a good job. The star of qualifying, though, Lando Norris, kind of, I don't want to say in a league of his own, because that midfield was so close. But when you consider how compact 5th to 10th were, it was pretty much from Albon to Ricciardo, 3/10. But there was a 2/10 jump back up to Norris, who was then 2/10 behind Max Verstappen. Norris splitting the 2 Red Bulls. I didn't see that. In my ones to watch, I thought Norris would be able to keep that progression going from last year. Of course, he was so good on the Saturday last year, but lacked a bit on a Sunday. But what a start to the season this has been for the Brit. And if you can carry that over tomorrow, I mean, last year was fighting with Hamilton, I said earlier, didn't I, on those opening laps and was so good. I'm excited to see what he can do. Max Verstappen, bless him. Where was his orange army? They didn't show up. It was disappointing not seeing the fans. Did it take away from the action? Not too much, but it does feel that there's something slightly missing, and that'll be something to keep an eye on over the next few weeks. But it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but still disappointing to not see the orange army. Max, comfortably 3rd best, but nothing he could do to take down the 2 Mercedes, class of their own, swapping position all the way through both Hamilton and Bottas, and it was always going to be a flip of the coin. 100th between the pair of them, so close, and Bottas is showing he's going to take the fight to Hamilton this year. That bit of rallying at the end of the session was a nice little touch for the end of qualifying, but tomorrow I think both of them will be hungry to prove themselves in the race. Before we go, the fun bits. Driver of the day, no doubt, Lando Norris. I would have loved to have given it to George Russell, and if he'd have just sneaked through to Q2, maybe I would have given it to him, but 2nd row of the grid, beating both Ferraris and a Red Bull on pure pace. McLaren's best result for years. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So happy for Lando. Ones to watch though. Tomorrow, a little bit of a different story. I've kind of changed up this graphic a little bit for this year. Max Verstappen, of course, and I kind of forgot to mention this, on the different tyre strategy for tomorrow. Certainly, that'll be something to keep an eye on, and probably the only headache Mercedes are going to have tomorrow. That could come back to bite me if they make contact into turn 1, but on the medium tyres, Max, certainly keep an eye. I've put Esteban Ocon and George Russell on there as well, kind of in the sense I'm just excited to see what their packages are going to be able to bring. Really a bit of an unknown in terms of Ocon's speed and also just how good that Williams is in the race. But of course, the one to watch is going to be Sebastian Vettel. Qualified 11th on the fresh tyres. Surely he's going to be able to work his way back up through the field. And tomorrow, Formula 1 Grand Prix racing returns. 10 past 2 BST UK time. We've got the Formula 2 sprint race just a little bit before. I want to know your predictions for tomorrow's race winner. Mercedes appear to have it, but there could be contact into turn 1, just like the Formula 3 race this morning. And finally, before we go, your Formula 2 feature race result is as follows. Callum Ilott, your race winner. The Ferrari Junior sharing the podium with 2 other Ferrari Juniors, debutant Marcus Armstrong and Robert Schwartzman. Christian Lundgaard, the first of the Renault Junior drivers in P4, with Dan Tickton, Williams Junior driver in P5. Giuliano Alesi actually did an incredible drive back up through the field. Different tyre strategy worked out an absolute treat. Louis Delatraz, P7. Felipe Drugovich qualified 2nd yesterday, but wasn't confident he was going to be able to bring home the points today, but did a solid job, beating teammate Nobuharu Matsushita in P9, and Roy Nissany will start on pole position tomorrow. But I tell you what, we are in a very strange situation where, realistically, the two that should have probably won the race, Guan Yu Zhou, some kind of mechanical failure halfway through the race, was leading and doing such a good job at the front. Ultimately, no points. Will start tomorrow's race well out of contention. And Mick Schumacher, the one who would have been in position to take the lead, safety car restart behind Ilott, made a mistake coming out of the end of Sector 2, dropping down the order and just missed out on reverse grid pole, finished 11th overall. But what a fantastic race it was in F2, and if F1 tomorrow can be anywhere near the standard of that race, we're all going to be very, very happy bunnies come the end of tomorrow. And that is your lot for the qualifying report. If you are new, feel free to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one.